Good morning. Well, it's morning here while I am filming this video. This is my welcome video for Geology 100 for summer 2026. I'm very excited. You guys get the chance to sort of play with a brand new, well, almost brand new class that I've spent the last few weeks rebuilding entirely. And I'm really proud of it. So, let's talk about parameters and sort of the syllabus and expectations regarding this class. I know. I know. Come back. Okay, hold on. There we go. From start. All right. GLG 100 with me, Emily McQuarrie. So this slide is just sort of going to take us, or sort of gives an outline on all of the different topics we're going to cover. In the past, I haven't gone over all of these, but this is everything in the syllabus that I'm going to talk about. A little about me. So my name's Emily McQuarrie. I go by McHugh sometimes. When I was in grad school, there were 5 Emilys in my cohort, and I was over it. So I started going by McHugh, but you can call me Emily, you can call me McHugh. I'm pretty amenable. I use she, her pronouns. I have 4 degrees, well, 3 degrees, a BFA in costume design, and I worked in theater. This is me working in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, putting a wig on Queen Elizabeth. I did that for a decade and realized that I hated it. So I went back to school and studied geology. I'm still trying to really ascertain that trajectory. Don't know why that was such a switch, but what I will say is I think that I have a love of stories and storytelling. And so I did theater because I love telling stories with hair and with costume. And I think I switched to geology because I went to the Grand Canyon several years ago and I loved the story that the Grand Canyon was telling. And so I think my switch to geology isn't that crazy. I think it was just about how do I tell Earth's story? How do I read Earth's story? So I did. I went back to school to study geology when I was 29. So if you're older and taking this class, get it. I'm here for it. You're never too old to go back to school. Got my BS in geology, and then I went and finished my master's 2 years ago from Western, and my master's is in organic geochemical oceanography in the last glacial maximum, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the cryosphere module. Okay, so because it's summer, and I actually have like way too many jobs, I don't have set office hours for the summer term. That being said, last year when I taught this class online, I had a few students who needed to chat with me, and I am so more than happy. I cannot emphasize that enough. I am more than willing and more than happy to set an appointment and meet with you at our availability sometime this summer. So if you need to chat with me, Zoom to Zoom, shoot me an email. Please shoot me an email. Do not ever feel like you cannot communicate with me with this class. And we'll meet. We'll set up a time to meet. Last year, I even met on weekends. I met in the evening. I know that's a little taboo. For a college instructor, but I really do think that the summer quarter is a little bit weirder than the regular term. So the not summer quarter, the fall, winter, spring. Right, I just got a really important text. Okay. Let's continue on. This is my email. It's also on Canvas page, so you will have access to it. I recommend emailing me and not sending me a Canvas notification. I will get both, but email gives me your email. And if you send me a notification like, hey, I don't have access to this PDF, I can't attach attachments in a Canvas notification response. So if you are like, I need to email McHugh and you send me a Canvas notification, I cannot send you attachments or I can respond. But if you need like a PDF or if you can't access the textbook, send me an email with your school email so that I can attach those documents. These are my babies. You just saw one, Henry. This is Henrietta. She's a perfect angel baby. She can do no wrong. This is Harry. You might see him. He's glowering at me from the floor right now. And he is 15 pounds and a menace to society. He's also stoned out of his brains in this picture. That is catnip. Anyways, they're my babies. They're my angel babies. So you'll probably see them wander across the screen. I've tried to stop it. I really have. I can't. I can't control them. Okay. The course description, Geology 100. It's an introduction to the specific study of Earth and space. It's intended for non-scientists. It's basic physics and chemistry applied to the Earth and solar system. Emphasis on the evolution of the Pacific Northwest, including a survey of geologic, oceanographic, meteorologic, and astronomic processes that contributed to its development. Now, this is the description that Canvas has on the class finder, and it's fair, and I tried to follow it to the best of my ability. However, I've altered it slightly. Oopsies. In that every module, we're going to cover a different sphere of Earth's system. So it does sort of bring about all of these concepts into this definition, but I really, really made it my own. And I think it made it a little bit easier and a little bit more understanding for your sake. Time and location. I want to make it clear, and hopefully you all saw this, and this is why you signed up for this class. This is an online and asynchronous class. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that there is no set time for this course. I do not have distinct Zoom lectures at given times. You have an autonomous academic responsibility to work through these materials at your leisure, which is why we have these classes, especially in the summer. Many of you went home for the summer or are working really hard this summer or have internships this summer but still need credits. And so sort of the Skagit's way of working with that is let's do some online asynchronous classes. And I have a lot of opinions about online asynchronous classes. I love them. I've taken some before in the past. They can be really difficult for labs. So I have done my best to sort of build this class, and this is what I've been spending the last 2 weeks doing, is working with different online resources to make the labs really accessible and as interactive as possible. That being said, one thing I'm doing as well, which I just started doing last year and I loved it, and the students have loved it too, is I'm going to publish all the modules at the beginning of the course. Now, they all have different due dates. We'll sort of work through that, but you have access to every single module at the beginning of the course. And this isn't to overwhelm you. When you look on it, I'm sure you will be very overwhelmed, and I apologize for that. What it's meant to do is it's meant to give you access for all of the modules throughout the term, so that if you need to jump ahead, if you know that you're going on vacation in a week and you know you won't have access to Wi-Fi, it will give you the opportunity to work through that module quicker and earlier so that you can keep up with the course, basically. So it's for your benefit. Oh, here I have a whole slide talking about being online and asynchronous. I think that the biggest enemy of my online asynchronous classes, and I teach an online asynchronous class every single term. I usually teach Environmental Science 101 online during school. The biggest issue that I see with these classes is my students' inability to manage their time. I feel like I see this a lot, and I'm not calling anybody out necessarily, but I feel like I see this a lot with my Running Start students or my high school students, because it's their first time, in a lot of ways, working autonomously or on their own, and setting a schedule. And so and I totally did this when I was in college too. When you all of a sudden have this autonomy and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do this module until the last minute. I see a lot of procrastination. I see when people submit their assignments and I see how much time they spend on these assignments. And so the students who really struggle in this class are the students who wait until the day that it's due, work through it very quickly, and submit at midnight when it's due. So my recommendation is set a schedule for this class. You probably know your work schedule or at least have an idea. Set a schedule, stick to it, and don't try to do everything all at once. The way that I have formatted this class, okay, I'm not sure if I say this ahead of time, is that the hours that this class should take you equal 6 to 8 hours, which is the required hour time for a 5-credit lab class. Okay, and I'll sort of talk about that when I do the Canvas tour at the end of this video. But there's a lot of work for each module. And on top of that, not only is this a lab-based class, but I have had to smoosh a lot of this material into 8 weeks, right? So we normally have an 11-week course. I've had to smoosh it and compact it into 11 weeks, or pardon me, into 8 weeks. So what I urge my students to do is to communicate with me. If this is the first time you've ever taken an online asynchronous class and you feel overwhelmed and you don't know how to manage your time appropriately, please shoot me an email. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out a schedule together. I have had full Zoom meetings where I have helped students set up a schedule based on what I know the homework in the lab are going to take for that week. And I am more accessible over the summer, I would say, than during the school year because I know it's summer and because I know you all have weird schedules. That being said, the other job that I have is out of Anacortes. I work with a nonprofit, which I love, and I might be out on a boat during the day every other week. So I might not get back to you in like an hour, but as soon as I see that email, I will email you back. And same with weekends. Give me a little bit of time over the weekends. I will be faster than the 24-hour period that I normally stay. Here's Henry. Do you want to say hi to Henry? Say hi, Henry. Yeah. Mwah. But I will get to the emails as fast as I can, basically. And I do pride myself on getting back to emails very quickly for my online classes. So, and never hesitate. If you're like, oh, I don't want to bother Emily, bother me. You guys, hold on. Let me make my face big for this. How do I make my face big for this? Can I not? Okay, well, oopsies. I will just put my face right in the middle. I am literally getting paid to help you. So don't ever feel like you're putting me out, or don't feel like you're bothering me, or don't feel like you're annoying me. This is my job, and I love my job, and I want you to succeed. And I want to build a course that you feel comfortable with. And I know, so I just redid a bunch of work in this class because last summer I learned I had a lot of issues, or this class had some issues and some like faulty links. So I've gone through and tried to fix all of them. But if you find something that's not working, email me. Please communicate with me. And you should always feel like you can email any professor. And I know that that is not always true and that I have a little bit different philosophy than a lot of my peers and my colleagues, but always feel like you can email me. I'm here to help. I also have a video linked in the welcome module that gives you tips and tricks for time management. Again, if you're not sure if you work well with time management, watch this video. It's short. I haven't actually recorded it yet, so I don't know how short it's going to be, and I like to talk, so I'll try to make it short. But this is how I have worked on time management for myself. So if you really want some tips and tricks, especially for an online asynchronous class, highly recommend. Required texts and materials. I have an online book that I love, and I use it for this class, and I use it for my Geology 101 class. It's actually one of the best accessible online textbooks that I've ever found. And it's free because I have a lot of opinions on students spending $200 on fucking textbooks that they're only going to use once. It makes me very angry. So you get an online textbook that is free with clickable chapters, and there's like, well, I'll show you when we get to the Canvas store. But like words are clickable, so they help define them as they go. It's such a great resource. However, what I will say is last year, this website crashed. And I do have the PDF version of this textbook, which maybe I'll just link anyways, just in case. But a student luckily reached out and was like, hey, just so you know, this website crashed. So if this happens again, and it shouldn't, because it crashed because they were like rewriting some of the chapters. So if it crashes or you can't access it, please shoot me an email. It shouldn't, but just in case, right? If I have any other reading materials for you throughout the term, they will be PDFs linked in each module. So everything is free. All of the reading is free. Access to Google Earth Pro. So this is important. I do have a whole video on Google Earth Pro. It is a free app, but it is different than Google Maps or Google Earth. It is an actual app, and that is important because throughout the term, some of the labs that I have you do, you'll have to download files onto Google Earth Pro, and you can only do it on Google Earth Pro. If you have a school laptop, make sure you contact IT immediately to get Google Earth Pro put on there. You can't do it without admin help. It's so stupid. But you need Google Earth Pro. There are two modules, 2 or 3, that utilize Google Earth Pro. And it's such a cool program. And I love it. But I need you to make sure you can access it now instead of when you're doing the lab last minute and you realize you don't have access to Google Earth Pro. Access to Canvas, this should be a given. My big thing with Canvas, please, for the love of all that is holy, turn on your announcement notifications. This is also one of the biggest issues that I come across with my online asynchronous classes. If you do not get my announcements, you're not going to get the information from this course. This is such a good example of what happened last term. I sent out an announcement last term about one of the modules. One of the links had crashed. And a few students emailed me and I was like, okay, I will just skip that part of the lab and we'll fix it for later. And I sent out an announcement. I kid you not, 5 students after this announcement emailed me and said, hey, the link is down. And I was like, yes, read your announcements. Get your announcements. So I know if your announcement notifications are not on. But keep in mind, because this is an online asynchronous class, this is the only way I have to communicate with you. So please turn on your announcement notifications. Check your grades frequently. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. And access to YouTube. So basically, make sure you have access to Wi-Fi. I do not take or hey, I didn't have access to Wi-Fi this week as an excuse. You're taking an online class. It is your responsibility and your prerogative to ensure that you have Wi-Fi to work through these modules in a timely manner, okay? Now, if you know I'm going to be camping in a week and I won't have access to Wi-Fi, you're welcome to email me and just validate like, hey, I won't have access to Wi-Fi next week. I'm going camping. Is there anything I need to know? And I'm happy to say, oh, actually, we're doing the case study next week, so try to get that in by this day. Or if you need to do it last minute, do it this day. So Wi-Fi is a given. I do not accept it as an excuse after the fact. Okay, there are 8 modules as part of this course. And each one goes through a different sphere. Mine is geography. Geography is sort of our introduction into, actually geography, we do use Google Earth Pro. And then it's sort of an introduction into what to expect for the term. So it's a little bit more chill. It shouldn't take you as much time as some of the other spheres. We're going to talk geosphere, hydrosphere, which is water. Oh, I thought I had the map. Atmosphere, biosphere, cryosphere, anthroposphere, and then my last module was climate change. We also are going to have a summer case study. So case studies historically have been one of the most popular parts of this course. And basically, well, I guess I have a video for the case study. I don't want to dive that hard into it, but it's a discussion post. So it's interacting with your peers. And last summer I did it a little bit differently and it was fine. But this summer I decided it's summer. let's do something fun. So we're going to do Vacation Sphere. And basically, you'll get the opportunity to pick a national park and study the geology of that national park. And I have a whole video on it, so I'm not going to dive into it here. This class is also going to understand how we use scientific theory to answer major questions regarding Earth systems. To understand the 5 major Earth systems, plus 1. The 5 major Earth systems are geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere, and cryosphere. And more recently, we have found the anthroposphere, which is the human interaction with Earth spheres. So there's 6 Earth systems, but the 5 main ones are the first 5 that we're going to go over and how they interact with each other. To gain a better idea at the smaller impacts, the larger impacts, chemically, physically, and biologically. And I hope that you leave this, you leave this class with an empathetic outlook to our Earth and its systems. I love teaching about this Earth, and I hope it gives you a sense of awe and wonder when you leave this class. So I do want to talk about this because I'm teaching an introductory class. Most of the classes that I teach at Skagit are introductory. I teach Geology 101, I teach Chem 121, I teach Environmental Science 101, I've taught soils. So I teach a lot of beginning classes, but one of the things that I think gets overlooked in these classes, and the through line for all of these introductory classes that I teach, is that just because it's an introductory course doesn't mean it's going to be an easy course. There's a misconception there, and I had a student get very upset with me last summer with this course because they insisted this is a beginner's course. I was like, it's not a beginner's course. It's an introductory course. A beginner's course to me is like, let's take high school geology and learn 3 concepts. An introductory course in college generally has snippets of huge topics. So I'm going to touch on major topics, some of which have their own classes entirely if you get into the major field. So I think the biggest problem is the array of material that we cover and the topics that we cover. And a lot of times people think it goes really fast because of that. We cover so much that it's hard to remember. So that being said, don't walk into this class thinking it's going to be quote unquote easy. It's not going to be, like, the content itself is not going to be hard. However, what's going to make it difficult is just the amount of information that I send your way. It can be overwhelming. And again, if you get overwhelmed, shoot me an email. Let's talk about it. But don't walk into this class thinking, oh, I'm just going to breeze right through it. I don't want it to be difficult, but I think that it is hard in the sense that we talk about a lot of things. So my responsibilities that you are more than willing and happy and able to hold me accountable for is that I want to provide equitability and accessibility across the class and coursework. I have ensured that any of the labs and homeworks that we do are accessible and equitable, but if you find a flaw, please shoot me an email. I want to provide satisfactory education regarding the topic of geology and Earth systems, and I want to provide activities and realistic scenarios to help describe and relate geologic science to local and global issues. So with that, my methods, my teaching methods, when I teach in-person classes, I really, really work incredibly hard to give hands-on and practical assignments. And my students love it in Geo100. And this is also why I'm so grateful that I teach in a community college setting, because in a 4-year college setting, it can be really hard to offer hands-on opportunities, especially during lecture. Geo101 is usually like 200 students, right? And you can't really offer hands-on activities for 200 students. And I really work hard to do that. So I'm trying my best to apply that to an online setting. So I have found really great, there's so many great online resources that I have found, and interactive labs that are generally free and online. All of them are free. I don't know why I wrote generally free, but all of the ones that we will be utilizing in this class are free and online. However, one thing like I found last term with the site that crashed, because these sites are free, for your sake, because you shouldn't have to pay $200 for a lab online when there's so many cool online resources to find. I have found that a lot of these websites might crash, especially if we're overusing them or if I have a lot of students using them at the same time. Right now, as of this moment when I'm filming this, there's 13 students in this class, so it shouldn't be a problem. The other problem is these sites might lag, so they might take a little bit longer to load. So be patient, and keep in mind they're free. You're welcome. Your responsibilities, oh my God, Henry. Your responsibilities as my student is to work through each module in a timely manner. This is your responsibility. This is your, oh my God, Henry. You have to set your own schedule. You have to do the work. But if you're struggling, it is also your responsibility to reach out to me during the term. Now, I have had students who have skipped like 2 modules, and I'll email you and just ask like, hey, is everything okay? What's going on? But otherwise, if you're not turning in assignments, I'm not going to exert the energy to reach out and check in. If you're getting other assignments in, I just assume X, Y, and Z. But if you're struggling, please shoot me an email. If you're struggling with concepts, if you don't understand a question on a module, shoot me a question. An email. When you do email me, actually, it really shouldn't be this problem for this class. During the school year when I'm teaching 4 classes at the same time, it drives me absolutely nuts when I get an email from a student, especially in the first week, so I don't know all of you, that are like, I don't understand the homework. Okay, well, which class of mine are you taking? What homework assignment are you asking about? What about the homework assignment don't you understand? So please, when you email me, be as specific as possible. You can say, hey, I don't understand question 9, and what are you asking about? Are you asking about whether the plate boundary is convergent or divergent? Please specify, or can we meet on Zoom? Just be specific, so that I don't have to go back and forth with you about, wait, what are you asking? What do you need? I don't understand what you're asking. It'll just save us both time and energy. And again, here's my email. Boop. The grade system is set up like this. Homework is 25% of your grade. Labs are 25% of your grade. The quizzes that you'll have are 15% of your grade. The case study, the National Park Vacation Sphere, is 15% of your grade. The midterm and final are both 10%, respectively. My grading policy, which has been altered as I experience student panic at the end of the term. I will only round grades at the end of the term that are 0.5% and below. So if you have a 89.3, I'm not going to round that to 90. If you have an 89.6, we can chat. Now, I say that because grades are going to be rounded at the end of the term at my discretion. And that is going to be dependent wholly on student effort, participation, attitude, communication. And if I don't feel like you were putting in the effort this term and you have a 78.3% and your work was subpar, and I have communicated this with you throughout the term, it isn't going to be I don't think you put in enough effort. It will be, hey, so this assignment was not your best effort. I'm not going to be mean about it, but if you want it to be rounded, put in that effort at the end of the term, or during the term, pardon me. I also do not offer incomplete grades, and I learned this the hard way this term as well. An incomplete is a contract, basically, between a student and an instructor. And I offer incompletes at my discretion. So this is part of Skagit policy as well. If you meet the qualifications of having an incomplete, you still have to get instructor okay. And the reason this is having an incomplete means that I also have to continue putting in work. It gives you extra time to complete assignments or to turn in assignments. And I have only ever offered it on two circumstances. The circumstances that I have offered it is the communication that I receive in that term from a student, like, hey, I am taking a lot of classes right now. And this is like week 3, you're communicating with me, not week 7, but week 3, you're like, hey, I'm taking a lot of classes. I'm really trying to keep up. I know my work isn't going to be the best. Is there any way you can like push this deadline? And this is like a constant communication every week where, and you do not have to give me excuse, or you don't have to give me, specific excuses. That meaning, the other reason that I have accepted incompletes or offered an incomplete for a class in the past was a medical issue. And it was an emergency, and it literally happened to one of my students during finals week. And she reached out and she was like, I'm in the ER. I can't come to the final exam this week. Can I get an incomplete? And I was like, girl, yeah, you're in the emergency room. But she was also sitting, she had been coming to class regularly. She was sitting with a really good grade. She had been putting in the effort, and when she was at school, she was a great student. Not to say that if you're getting a bad grade, you're not a good student, but if she was actively putting in the effort and she was doing the work. So, but she did not need to tell me she was in the ER. You do not have under any obligation you are not obligated, I guess that's the English, to tell me specific details. I do try to work with my students on an equitable level in that, especially with my in-class students. Oh, I'm sorry I slept in, or oh, my car didn't work this morning, or my grandmother is in the hospital. I try to see it all as relatively equal as I can, and no, not every situation is equal, but I don't want to offer one student one thing and then have another student say, well, you gave them a pass on the assignment, why won't you give me a pass? So you do not need to tell me specific details. You don't have to tell any professor specific details. It is not their right to know. And if you are communicative with me, that is what I care about. That is what I do need to know. And if you are dealing with something early, tell me as soon as you can. Obviously, if you're in the ER, don't make me your top priority. But as soon as you're settled and as soon as you're doing okay, you can shoot me an email and say, hey, I can't turn in my assignments this week. Again, you don't have to tell me why. If you want to, great. More than happy to listen, but you do not have to. You're under no obligation. Because I do not accept late work. For all my online asynchronous classes, I do not accept any work past the due dates. And I do this for a few reasons. A, it really, really helps my students with their time management. In the past, when I haven't had a strict policy like this, I would get students, especially with my online asynchronous classes, turning in assignments 4 weeks, 5 weeks late. And I don't have the capacity to grade like that. And you also won't know your grade until then. So I don't accept any late work. I don't have a late window. I don't take any assignments through email. So if the assignment is closed, it's closed. I'm not trying to be mean about that. I really do honestly think this helps students with their time management skills, okay? Now, if there are extenuating circumstances, like what I just went on a monologue about, shoot me an email before. Say, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this assignment done on time. I thought I would have time. It was in my schedule, but something came up. Can I have an extension? I have offered extensions in the past, but they're short extensions. They're maybe a day or two. They're not, oh yeah, I'll give you 2 extra weeks. Nope, it's not going to be like that. And I also do this because I open every single module at the beginning of the term. So you have plenty of time to work on these assignments. This also means if you are starting your assignment Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and I'm in bed, because I'm an old lady and I go to bed very early, I can't extend your deadline that late. Once the assignment is closed, it's closed. So it's your responsibility to work through the module in a timely manner and reach out as early as you can. So here's the schedule. And again, I really want to emphasize that we're condensing an 11-week course into 8 weeks, and it's a lot. It can be overwhelming. So unfortunately, a lot of these modules are doubled up. The first week, I should have put welcome module in here too. The welcome module has just a basic like introduce yourself discussion post, so it's nothing crazy. But the first, well, I guess technically the second week, July 14th, you're gonna have the first module and the welcome module due. Your second or your third week, you have module 2 Geosphere and your first part of your case study due. The same with Hydrosphere and discussion part 2. Week 5 is Atmosphere, and the midterm is due this week. I'll talk more about exams later, but what I'll preface with is they're open book, open notes, so they're nothing necessarily to stress about, okay? Module 5, and then part 3, and then module 6 and module 7 are due week 7, and then climate change and the final exam are due week 8. So there's a lot each week. I even took a whole module out. I used to have 9 modules, and I was like, nope, I can't fit it in logically to this. So this is the workload that I have in any given 11-week course. And I have made that fair and equitable, but you also know taking this class that we're condensing it from 11 weeks to 8 weeks. So I have set the schedule as best I can for an 8-week death course. That's what I call them. Oh, Henry. Oh, God, her fur is all up in my mouth. Academic integrity. This is something that my colleagues and I are working on with our online classes because AI is so prevalent these days. So what I ask of you is to do your own work. And if I catch you cheating, I am required to report you to the school, and it's not fun for either party. Don't copy. Copying and pasting from websites is a form of cheating. ChatGPT and other AI is a form of cheating. But let's talk about this because I'm not here to say, don't ever use ChatGPT or AI. I use ChatGPT and AI. I have to. My students are using it, so I need to know what I'm up against. But it is also a good tool. Now, the first module that you have, geography. Your homework assignment is working with ChatGPT. I don't hate ChatGPT as a tool, as a resource, meaning that if you have a question that you don't understand, you can type it into ChatGPT or Google even, right? Google has that little AI snippet at the top. What I like about Google is type it into Google, and not only does it give you a little like rundown, but normally to the right of it, it has, here's where we got these sources. What I like about that is I have fully used this AI, and then I look over at the sources and I'm like, oh wait, one of these sources is Reddit. Well, that's not a reliable source. But sometimes it's like, oh, I got this resource from the National Park Service. Awesome. That's an excellent resource to use. And then I'll click on the source and find that same information on the source and use that as my reference as opposed to AI. And so you're welcome to use AI as a tool, but don't copy and paste straight from ChatGPT. First of all, I see this all the time, and it's really funny. And there are a few things that I look for when I see people copying and pasting ChatGPT. The first thing is it the same format as ChatGPT? I see formats, if I see bullet points like that. The other thing is if I ask a simple question and you write me 2 paragraphs response of material that is so much more in depth than I am asking for, I'm going to flag that as they use ChatGPT. I'm going to tell you now, 90% of my questions in these assignments, I just need 1 or 2 sentence responses, unless I ask for a paragraph. And there are a few questions that I say, write me a paragraph. I don't need you to write an essay. Just write 1 or 2 sentences, okay? If you do use AI to help answer a question, read that answer, understand what it is you're trying to explain, and then rewrite it in your own words. I don't hate this. I do this. And I also think it's a good way for you to still retain that information. If you're copying and pasting, that's one thing. But if you're actively reading the answer that ChatGPT is giving and you're seeing that the resources that it's using are accurate, it's okay to think about it and then rewrite it in your own words. I don't see that as any different than reading a document and rewriting in your own words. Now, ChatGPT is not reliable. So when you find information, make sure it is reliable. And the first homework assignment will go over that a little bit. I have failed many assignments using AI. I will do it again. And to this day, I have only had maybe 2 students email me back and say, I actually didn't use AI. Please reconsider. And I went back in and I checked and I was like, you're absolutely right. I apologize. But most of the students that I give zeros for are like, yeah, I did use AI. It's cheating. Please just do your own work. You're here, you're paying for this class. Get out of this class what you're paying for. I want you to learn really cool things. Okay. This is also a big thing. Do not email me your assignments. I know. Henry agrees. You have to put it on Canvas for a few reasons. For school accessibility, for example, if later on you want to contest your grade, which actually has never happened to me, but it's happened to a few of my colleagues. If you want to contest your grade, I need your assignment put into Canvas so that the people who are like, well, let's see what's going on, they can look in Canvas and say, okay, well, they did this assignment and this was a subjective grading and X, Y, and Z. You have to submit it into Canvas. If you're emailing me your assignment, it's also just going to get drowned out by 500 other emails. I get so many emails. It's kind of absurd. Do not submit a Google link. I will not click on it. I'm just going to tell you now, this is in my syllabus. I will not click on a Google link because 9 times out of 10, even if you give me access initially, it still says you need access for this. And it drives me nuts. I also hate Google. I will not do it. I will not click on Google links. And I won't see it until after the submission date. You will get a 0 on that assignment. So do not send me a Google link for me to access. You can convert any of the Google assignments into PDFs and submit that way. And finally, just communicate with me. I am more than happy to get emails with students that are struggling. In fact, I'd rather get emails than just stay quiet all term and not get to know any of my students and not talk to my students. I would rather you reach out and say, hey, and in fact, you're going to have to email me at some point this quarter because for the national park assignment, you have to email me. But please feel free to communicate with me. If you have a question, email me. If you're struggling, email me. If you're not sure about some of the accessibility resources the school offers, email me. There's my email. A 4th or 3rd time in this PowerPoint. Turning in labs. I don't think this will be a problem with this class because most of the material that you're turning in are going to be like Word docs or PDFs. But I have in the past gotten students ask if they can take pictures of stuff and submit it. And there might be a few assignments, like some of the reflections that I have you do this term. I had a student who was like, can I hand write my reflection? And I was like, really? Okay, live your life. Please make sure that when you upload those assignments, if you're taking pictures and uploading them that way, that they don't look like this, because I can't read that. They don't look like this, because I can't read that. They do look like this. This is beautiful and stunning, and it's legible, and I can read it. Also, this does pertain to this class. When you do upload your assignment, not all of my modules have a upload a Word or PDF or PowerPoint, but some of them do. When you have submitted it, click on the link that you have just submitted to make sure you submitted the correct thing and that you have submitted the right amount of pages or documents that the assignment is asking for, because I do not look at assignments until after they're due when I'm grading them. And if you have submitted the wrong assignment, I'm going to give you a 0, and then I'm going to write in the little comments, wrong assignment, and no, you cannot resubmit. It is up to you. It is your prerogative to make sure that you have uploaded the correct assignment. And please send me emails if there's issues or flaws with any of the work. I had a student last summer who was like, hey, I don't think this question makes sense with the module that you're asking. And she was totally right. It's not that I have frantically put this class together. I've taken a lot of time, and this is actually the 4th time I've taught this class. But I did redo a lot of things this term. So if you find a mistake, please shoot me an email. And let me know. I'm not going to be offended. This is what you're paying for. I want to help you learn and I want to help do it right. So if there's a mistake, don't feel like you're going to be putting me out by saying, hey, this link isn't working, or this part of the homework doesn't make any sense. It's worded weirdly. I've been doing this for so long that sometimes I word things in a way that makes sense in my brain. And then my students are like, what the heck? What is it? What are you even asking? Totally valid. And then it gives me the opportunity to go back and fix it for next time, which might not help you out, but I'm happy to explain what I'm asking. Okay, I know this has been a long video and I apologize. Let's talk about Canvas real quick. So this is what you will see on Canvas. As a student, you have your modules are listed here. And again, they're all going to be published when you get there. For each module, for the welcome module, again, all you have is this welcome discussion. It's just to introduce yourself to your peers and say hi, and to me. Up here is the homepage, which has all of the details you will need. Weird, my email is at the very top here. Oops, I gotta switch that. My Zoom ID and password, my syllabus, the textbook that we'll be using, which is awesome. I love this textbook so much. So this is the Salt Lake Community College has put this together. Bless their sweet hearts. And this is a geology textbook that I love. So if we go to Understanding Science, which is the first textbook that you'll need, or the first chapter that we'll need. Okay, we'll wait for you to come back. All of my videos will be presented here. This is all just the syllabus stuff listed under here, but you will have access to that syllabus right here through this link. Home. So every module, I'll start with geography, has the description, the reading that you will need. So these are the three documents that you'll be reading for module 1. Most of them are pretty short. So Understanding Science is this. Oh, here it is. Look at this. Contrast objective gives the definition. This is such a cool resource. Pseudoscience. And if you don't need definitions, you don't have to hover. You can exit out. It gives pictures. It has descriptions. You can click on them. Oh, I just love this textbook so much. It's amazing. Okay, so this is what you will be reading to help you understand the module. This particular resource is brand new. It is an article about how AI is depleting logical and rational thinking and critical thinking. So one thing that I'm going to have you consider for this first module is how AI, the first thing you see on a lot of times, so what this article is spewing essentially is a lot of times what you see for AI is what you immediately believe. So if you type in a question to AI and it spits out an answer, what we're finding, what scientists are finding, is that students just are automatically believing that, and they're not using critical thinking to think, wait, is AI actually giving me accurate information, or do I need to provide more research? And 9 times out of 10, you need to provide more research. So that's what the first homework assignment is meant to give you. Oh, I just loved this article so much. So that's part of it. And then some information about geography. You will have the PowerPoint linked here if you want to follow along or download the PowerPoint from this module, and then the lecture video. And then I have also linked the deliverables through this page, but you will also be able to find those deliverables down here. So with every single module, you will have a quiz that's 10 points-ish. Ooh, they might change. So yeah, this one's 13. You'll have a quiz. This one is the syllabus quiz. This is to make sure that you read the syllabus and you've listened to this whole video, and I'm sorry it's so long. Your homework is going to be linked here. The other thing that I've changed a lot about this class is I have turned many of these assignments into quiz format. And I did that for a few reasons. A, it's actually more accessible and equitable grading wise. For you and for me. It's also something that you can come back to later. And what I have loved about it is that it doesn't force you to upload a document. Some of my assignments do have that, but some of them I was like, I can turn this into a quiz so they don't have to upload a document. that might be wrong, or if that it's a whole other struggle, right? Because then you have to save the doc, or normally you'd have to download it and then write in it and then save it and then re-upload it, and it's a whole process. So making these into quizzes was actually way more accessible for you as my students, but more equitable for me to grade. So it's a win-win situation. And a lot of them are quizzes. You can also return to these quizzes. These are the ones that you can return to. You can leave, you can come back. There's no time limit. The quizzes are timed, and they're timed. I think I give you like an hour for each, but the questions are pretty chill. And I give them timed because they're about the lecture. So you watch the lecture, you take the timed quiz, but the homework and the labs are never timed. Okay, you can come back to them at any time. Once the due date hits, they do close and they'll submit what you've already done. The other good news about that too, that I have found is that if you get halfway done and then the deadline hits and it closes, you'll at least get those points, okay? In the past, when I've had uploads of assignments, you can start it and my students will be working on it, and then the deadline closes and they can't submit anything, even if they've gotten halfway through it. So this was a really great way to make it super accessible and handy for everybody. Your case study, oopsie, I got to switch disaster sphere. That was last year. It was kind of sad. So I was like, we're going to make it happy this year. Is vacation sphere. And I'll have a whole video about this next that you can watch. But every single module is going to be open to you. Okay? And every single module has the same amount of work, quiz, homework, and lab. Okay. I think that is all I want to share. I know this was a long video. Part of me doesn't feel that bad about it because you can move it at 1.5 times speed if you really want. But I did have a lot of important information to give. Okay, please reach out if you have any questions or comments. I'm going to go film another video.